It appears my husband has fallen under some devilish influence. I've made the decision to transfer ownership of this house to Susan. Should anyone oppose me, be prepared for the possibility of divorce. My husband intends to bestow our home, registered under my name, to the spouse of our eldest son, a true harpy who should vacate immediately. This conniving wife has manipulated my husband to her advantage, but I shall reclaim what's rightfully mine. I find it rather amusing, really. I can easily manage the monthly mortgage of $1,800 on my own. As it seems, even my eldest son has aligned with her. Well, I no longer hold any sentimental attachment to this decrepit abode. I shall relocate elsewhere. Rest assured, all three of you will face the consequences. Prepare yourselves. My name is Grace, and I am 60 years old. I hold an executive position in a prominent corporation. I reside with my husband, Robert, who is 2 years my junior. Just last year, we embarked on renovating our ancestral home in anticipation of our future. Built by my father, the house had aged considerably and required updates to accommodate our advancing years. However, due to our age and the extensive renovations, the loan amount is somewhat burdensome at $1,800 per month. However, the loan amount is well within our means, and I've been assured of its approval given my executive position in a major corporation. Interestingly, Robert, my husband, manages a small restaurant earning less than me, which seemingly facilitates my loan application process. Yet, solely relying on my income to repay the loan would pose challenges. Although the house originally belonged to your father and is now in your name, I can't help but feel guilty. Would you be able to cover the entire loan amount? In return, I'm more than willing to increase my contribution towards our living expenses. We jointly deliberated on the decision to renovate, and the transformation of our home is nothing short of remarkable. Its newfound beauty and comfort are almost surreal. Renovating the very house I grew up in brought me immense joy, fostering the hope of a lifetime within its walls. I never imagined the day would arrive when I have to bid farewell to this cherished home. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzes with a message. "I'm getting married," announces my eldest son, Jack, through the receiver. At 31, Jack holds a prestigious position as a section chief in a major corporation. He's always been diligent, immersing himself in studies and extracurricular activities, and his dedication has only deepened in adulthood. Despite his achievements, discussions of his romantic life have been scarce. Naturally, I found myself intrigued by the woman Jack intended to wed, a subject of much speculation. What manner of person could she be? If she has captured Jack's heart, she must possess remarkable qualities. Yet, a pang of concern gnaws at me. Could she be scheming, taking advantage of Jack's limited experience in matters of the heart? The anticipation and nerves swirled within me as we awaited the arrival of our son's significant other for the first time. Finally, the day arrived, and a poised woman with chestnut locks draped in a pristine white chiffon dress graced our doorstep. "I'm Susan, pleased to meet you." She greeted us with impeccable manners and a tidy appearance, leaving a favorable first impression. Flashing a brilliant smile, she extended her greetings to both Mom and Dad. Observing her, I couldn't help but feel reassured. Jack could surely be entrusted to her care. It seemed Robert shared my sentiments, his grin mirroring my own. "She's a keeper," he whispered in approval. Susan, catching his words, clasped Robert's hand and met his gaze earnestly. The intensity of the moment left me questioning her motives. What was she playing at? Taken aback by her sudden closeness, I instinctively recoiled, sensing Jack's own surprise, though Robert appeared unperturbed. While I harbored no feelings of jealousy, the encounter left an uncomfortable knot in my stomach. What are you doing?" I questioned, my tone tinged with uncertainty. "Thank you," Susan replied, her response doing little to ease my unease. Sensing Jack's discomfort, I directed my attention towards Susan, only for her to stammer apologetically, "Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have overstepped on our first meeting. I'm truly sorry," hastily releasing Robert's hand. I often hear that I lack awareness of personal space. It's never my intention to cause offense. I just end up doing it. I'm really sorry. Despite her sincere remorse, I couldn't help but feel taken aback by her behavior, a stark contrast to my initial positive impression. But Jack is absolutely smitten with her, even with her unconventional behavior, Robert interjected, his tone tinged with fondness. Susan's lack of personal space is actually one of her endearing qualities. She's the one who took the initiative with me despite my shyness around women. Thanks to her, I've been able to open up and envision a future together. Seeing Jack, who's usually quite introverted, transform like this, well, I trust him in your hands. Despite my initial reservations, I came to realize that Susan was indeed a kind-hearted person. With my approval granted, their wedding plans swiftly fell into place, culminating in a joyous ceremony just a few weeks later. From the depths of my heart, I wish them nothing but endless happiness. 6 months into their marriage, upon returning home one evening, I was greeted by an unexpected sight. A pair of women's shoes sat at the entrance, and in the living room, I found Susan. "Ah, welcome back, mother-in-law," she greeted me cheerfully amidst the scattered remnants of a drinking session. Puzzled by the scene, I couldn't help but inquire, "What's all this? Why the impromptu party without Jack?" Curiosity piqued, I sought an explanation. Well, on my way home from work, I ran into Susan. She expressed a desire to bond, so we opted for a drink. With payday still out of reach, we thought home was the best venue, Robert explained, his tone tinged with amusement. But why not include Jack in the festivities? And I wouldn't want to intrude on the newlyweds' privacy. They could have simply enjoyed a drink at their own place, I countered, tilting my head in confusion. It could have been fine at our place, but our home is a bit of a mess right now, Susan confessed, her words slightly slurred from the effects of the drinks. But why drink here together? Why not invite Jack? I pressed, puzzled by the unconventional gathering. Having a daughter-in-law visit her in-laws for drinks while they're newlyweds? It's a bit unusual, I remarked, scanning the room for any sign of Jack's presence. Jack's swamped with work, you know, and I've been pulling overtime shifts. It's just so lonely, Susan's voice cracked as tears welled up in her eyes. There, Susan, it's not your fault, I comforted, reaching out to console her. Jack is the one to blame for leaving his newlywed wife alone. Robert consoled Susan, gently stroking her hair. Oh, daddy-in-law, I inwardly cringed at the peculiar sight. It was all rather unsettling. Robert, remember your position. Susan is your daughter-in-law. Showing such intimacy is disrespectful to Jack. I reprimanded him firmly, hoping to steer him back to propriety. However, before I could say more, Susan interjected, "Please don't scold daddy-in-law." What? I couldn't help but express my bewilderment at her defense of Robert. Though I had much to say, the exhaustion from a long day at work left me devoid of energy. "I'm going to take a bath. Please clean up," I sighed, retreating to the bathroom to seek solace. Resolved to address the situation, I dialed Jack's number to explain the bizarre turn of events. He insists he'll leave work immediately to pick up Susan. Understandable. Susan may be a tad eccentric, but Jack's willingness to drop everything for her speaks volumes about their bond. Still, I can't shake the feeling that life with her post-marriage might be a tad challenging. Despite my uncertainties, I resolve to offer Jack some marital advice when he arrives. Lost in contemplation, time slips away as I soak in the tub. Feeling a bit woozy, I make my way to the living room, expecting to find Jack ready to escort Susan home. To my surprise, Jack, despite being the designated driver, is indulging in a drink. "Jack, you drove here, right? You shouldn't be drinking," I gently remind him, only to be met with a cheerful, tipsy response. "Susan wanted a drink, so I thought we'd make a night of it," Jack explains, his words tinged with joviality. While I'm relieved my son will be staying the night, the presence of the daughter-in-law who's left a less than stellar impression gives me pause. Suddenly, a sense of bewilderment washes over me. "Eh?" I stammer, genuinely puzzled. But before I can protest further, Jack, already well into his drinks, interjects, "You know, I could drive you guys home." I don't want Susan to overstay her welcome. Despite my fatigue, I offer to chauffeur them home. However, Jack, ever the gracious host, insists, No, I feel bad. Why don't you join us for a drink?" I'm rendered speechless. Something feels amiss. Suddenly, Susan flashes a mischievous grin. It's as if she's mocking my confusion. It's just my imagination, right? I try to convince myself it's a misunderstanding. Little do I know, her elaborate scheme has already begun unfolding. The following day, Susan returned, her apologies pouring forth like a flood. "I'm truly sorry," she insisted before promptly leaving. I felt a sense of relief wash over me, as if a tempest had finally passed. However, Upon returning home that same evening, I found Susan once again present, with no sign of Jack in sight. A wave of despair crashed over me, though the circumstances differ from the previous day. I apologize for disturbing you once more, but I felt compelled to offer my apologies, Susan expressed, presenting me with a box of sweets. I got carried away. My mistake, Robert chimed in, his remorse palpable. While somewhat irksome, their display of contrition signaled a genuine effort to mend their ways. I forgive you. Thank you, I responded, sensing Susan's discomfort and appreciating their attempt at reconciliation. With that, Susan ceased her visits, sparing me further interaction. To be honest, I was relieved. I had no desire to engage with her any longer. Or so I thought, until one fateful day when Robert approached me with a solemn expression, signaling he had something important to discuss. As I pondered what it might entail and remained in the living room, Jack and Susan returned home. It's been a while, I greeted them, only to be met with silence. Perplexed, I wondered if they hadn't heard me. Suddenly, Robert's voice shattered the silence, declaring, I'm giving this house to Susan. If you object, we're getting a divorce. My mind reeled in disbelief. What was he saying? I couldn't comprehend his sudden proclamation. Mother-in-law, please leave, Susan interjected, her words plunging me into chaos. What? What does that mean? I demanded, my thoughts spinning. Hold on, why are you giving the house to Susan? I pressed Robert for answers, but his response only deepened my confusion. You've been bullying Susan all this time, he accused. Bullying? That's absurd, utterly baseless, I protested, struggling to make sense of the accusations hurled my way. But no matter how vehemently I argued back, Robert wouldn't listen, so shut up. Susan's words hit me like a slap in the face, explaining why she had been in tears, unable to return home until now. Robert's shouting only intensified, while Susan's tears continued to flow. How had things spiraled to this point? Suddenly, Jack chimed in, his voice laden with disbelief. I never imagined my mother would stoop to this. It's beyond messed up. The more I denied the accusations, the more enraged they became. Susan's tears seemed endless. That's it. I'm divorcing you. Leave now. I'm staying here with them, Robert declared firmly. Why should I give my house to Susan? I demanded, incredulous. In response, he shot back, because Susan is deeply hurt. Ordinarily, we demand compensation, but I believe there's a better way. By taking away your prized possession and giving it to Susan, it'll inflict the appropriate amount of damage on you, don't you think? I didn't bully her. Why should I be the one suffering? Besides, Susan quit her job when she got married. There's no way she can afford an $1,800 loan, I argue. Robert's response comes swiftly. Don't worry. We'll put the title in Jack's name. With his salary and his previous employer, we can make the change right away. Despite his assurances, I remained skeptical. Changing the title is no small feat, especially with the loan in place. It's not as simple as just flipping a switch. I doubt the bank will approve it, I counter. Robert, however, remains optimistic. You work for a big corporation, and so does Jack. We should be fine. Besides, I have a friend who works at the bank where you have your loan. I'm sure we can talk to him, and everything will work out. It's baffling where their sudden confidence stemmed from. That's right, an $1,800 loan is a breeze, lol. Jack, emboldened by Robert's assurances, now stands firm in his conviction that I must relinquish the house. Despite my repeated protests, insisting I hadn't bullied Susan and thus wouldn't give up the house, they remain unmoved. Every objection I raise only ignites another heated argument. This is too much, I mutter, growing weary of the ordeal. Through her tears, Susan finally speaks up, her voice trembling with emotion. Mother-in-law, for the sake of this child, please, she pleads, gently caressing her belly. My heart skips a beat as the weight of her words sinks in. No way, Mom. Susan is pregnant, Jack interjects, dropping the bombshell. Given her fragile state, the stress might lead to a miscarriage. So please, reconsider, he urges. Stress during pregnancy is indeed a serious concern, but surrendering my home over baseless accusations seems unfathomable. I'm left feeling bewildered and conflicted. Please just leave me alone for a moment, I murmur, retreating to the bedroom, seeking solace from the chaos unfolding. Doubts gnaw at my mind as I ponder Susan's accusations. Have I unknowingly treated her poorly? I wonder aloud, sinking into the bed, consumed by worry. Then a sudden discovery jolts me from my thoughts. What's this? I gasped, spotting a strand of brown hair on the bedspread. Robert's and my hair are both jet black. There's no plausible explanation for a stray brown strand. Could this revelation hint at infidelity, adding another layer to our already tumultuous situation? My mind reels at the possibility, teetering on the edge of despair. I don't even know what's real anymore. I whisper, tears streaming down my face as I succumb to exhaustion, drifting into a fitful sleep. When I awaken, the room is cloaked in darkness, signaling that night has fallen. As I attempt to make my way back to the living room, voices drift through the air, indicating that Jack and Susan have yet to return home. I wish I could join in for a drink. Robert's voice rings out, brimming with enthusiasm. You can't, remember? You're pregnant, Susan reminds him, her tone equally fervent. Faced with their fervor, I find myself unable to intervene, resigned to the silent turmoil raging within me. Susan's cryptic accusations had left me in a state of despair, unable to bring myself to face the unfolding drama in the living room. Suddenly, the hushed tones of an intimate conversation pierced the silence. "Oh, Susan, I love you," Robert's voice murmured affectionately, followed by Susan's hesitant response, "Stop it, Robert. What if Jack or my mother-in-law finds out?" My heart raced with confusion and disbelief. What on earth are Robert and Susan doing? I muttered to myself, unable to comprehend the scene unfolding before me. Don't worry, Jack is passed out drunk, and Grace hasn't emerged from her room in ages. She's probably fast asleep by now, Robert reassured Susan, his tone laced with amusement. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. So they've been planning this all along, I realized, a surge of nausea rising within me. They kicked me out of my own bed to have their tryst with Susan, hidden from Jack. My home, a mere venue for their illicit affair, I concluded bitterly, feeling utterly betrayed. Fine, I'll let go of this wretched place. But mark my words, there will be consequences. The following morning, I feigned sleep in my room, pretending as though nothing had transpired. Truthfully, I couldn't bear the thought of sleeping in that bed any longer, and the shock of the previous night had rendered sleep elusive. Finally summoning the courage to relinquish the house, I declared, "I've decided to hand over the house." The reaction was immediate. A collective grin spread across their faces. "Fantastic, let's initiate the transfer of ownership right away," Robert exclaimed eagerly. "I'm sure I can secure a loan approval in no time," Jack chimed in, his excitement palpable. It pained me to see him so oblivious, but I refrained from speaking the truth to a son who seemed wholly under his wife's sway. "Not yet," I interjected, delaying the proceedings. In the days that followed, divorce procedures and the transfer of ownership consumed our time and energy. It was a grueling process, but we persevered, ultimately succeeding in changing the ownership. "From today onward, it's no longer your house," Robert proclaimed triumphantly. "Get out of here, old lady, lol." Susan's spiteful whisper sent a surge of anger coursing through me. "I'll leave, you don't have to tell me," I retorted, masking the hurt beneath a veneer of indifference. Surrendering the house I had called home for a lifetime was undeniably sorrowful, but it had morphed into a den of betrayal. Yet, I harbored no regrets. From now on, I'll turn the tables on these three and their twisted dynamic. They'll rue the day they crossed me, I vowed silently. Nearly a month after vacating the premises, I felt ready to execute my plan. Returning to my former home, I hesitated only briefly before ringing the doorbell. "What does a stranger want here?" Robert's voice, tinged with anger, greeted me even after all this time. "May I come in? I have something important to discuss," I stated assertively, unwilling to be dismissed so easily. "Why should I let you in my house?" Robert hesitated, clearly reluctant to entertain my request. "It's for Susan's sake, too. I have something important to share," I insisted, hoping to pique his curiosity enough to grant me entry. The mere mention of her name was enough to sway Robert, allowing me entry without hesitation. Though I felt a wave of disgust at the thought of invoking her name, I knew Robert's weakness for her, so I played that card. "An outsider is here," Robert announced, a term that stung, considering our former marital status. His choice of words irked me, but I pushed aside my irritation, focusing on the task at hand. "What do you want after all this time?" he demanded, the tension palpable in the room. I want you to look at this, I replied, laying out the photos before them. What? What is this? Robert's voice betrayed his confusion as he studied the images before him. These are, he began, his words trailing off as he recognized the figures in the photos, himself and Susan, captured on what appeared to be a date. In truth, since our divorce. I had enlisted the help of a private investigator to track their movements, resulting in these incriminating snapshots. Just a moment. What are you trying to insinuate with these photos? Robert's tone turned defensive, attempting to downplay the significance of the evidence before him. We're simply a close father-in-law and daughter-in-law, nothing more, nothing less, he asserted, his words ringing hollow in the face of the damning evidence. Yeah, why are you resorting to such underhanded tactics? What do you hope to achieve by presenting these nonsensical photos? Susan chimed in, her tone laced with disdain. Despite their protests of innocence, I remained unconvinced. Well, how about this? I announced, retrieving my smartphone and playing a recorded conversation. I really do love Susan. Hey, if you speak so loudly, Jack and mother-in-law will wake up. Robert's voice echoed through the room, followed by Susan's murmurs. What? What's this? Robert's voice trembled with disbelief as he listened to the recording. Actually, the day I discovered your relationship, I had recorded your conversation. I explained calmly, though my heart raced with anger. No, this is a misunderstanding. Robert protested desperately, his words falling on deaf ears. What misunderstanding? This is clearly not acceptable. Jack interjected, his fury palpable. She kept her head down. I added, deciding to stoke the flames further. Listen, I hate to ask, but who's really the father of that baby in your belly? I pressed, watching as Jack's complexion turned ashen. Is it with a dad? Jack's voice quivered with fear. No way, my father-in-law was pulling out every time. Oh, Susan's words trailed off, a realization dawning upon her too late. You just admitted it, didn't you? You just admitted it. Robert and Jack erupted into shouts, their anger boiling over. In the chaos that ensued, they ended up wrestling with each other, their scuffle abruptly interrupted by Susan's cry of pain as a cramp seized her stomach. I've been saying this all along, haven't I? I haven't been bullying Susan. Could it be that you were lying just to drive me away, to manipulate Jack? I interjected, my voice laced with frustration. Jack recoiled in disbelief. You're kidding. What the hell? That's just messed up with you guys. He exclaimed, his trust shattered. Unable to trust even my own mother, I watched as Jack grappled with the betrayal, his sense of guilt palpable. Now that you understand all this, spill everything, he demanded angrily, his gaze fixed on the two culprits. Reluctantly, they confessed, revealing, we have enough evidence. Here, are we going to court? The mere mention of the word court seemed to loosen their tongues, and they began to speak. Apparently, Susan initially loved Jack, but upon seeing our newly renovated and beautiful home during their marriage proposal, she grew envious. My parents' house was pretty run down, and I was jealous of a beautiful house like this, she confessed bitterly. The interior was quite nice too, she explained tearfully. It became evident that the woman who coveted a home like ours had meticulously orchestrated her plan to win over Robert on the day of the marriage proposal. So she intentionally ambushed Robert after his work without inviting Jack and brought him home. For several months, as Jack remained absent, she cultivated a relationship with Robert and plotted to push me out. Then why not propose to live together from the beginning? I questioned. She paused before replying. I have a negative perception of mothers-in-law. At home, my mom and grandma fought every day because my grandma bullied my mom. I didn't want to subject myself to living with a mother-in-law. The only way to live comfortably in a beautiful house was to get rid of the mother-in-law. Indeed, with such a perception, living with a mother-in-law would be undesirable. But to pursue your father-in-law? What did Robert think about this? I pressed further. I knew I was being manipulated, but when she greeted me with a smile, held my hand, Robert's admission trailed off, revealing his vulnerability. Despite being aware of being used, he seemed to have succumbed to her charm, choosing to abandon me to keep her by his side. You guys, you're the worst. Jack's words hung heavily in the air as the two offenders hung their heads, tears streaming down their faces. Following Jack's natural decision to divorce, he opted to verify the child's DNA, revealing Robert as the biological father. "I won't pay child support," Jack declared, demanding compensation from the guilty parties. "Of course, me too. I can't believe I'm suing my own father for compensation," I consoled Jack, gently patting his head as he grappled with the shocking revelation. That deceitful woman had upended all our lives, but she would soon come to regret her actions more than any of us. My intuition proved correct. 2 years later, she remarried Robert, choosing to endure their union for the sake of their child. Placing their offspring in daycare, she resumed work. "Look, Daddy, Uncle came to pick you up today," she chirped to their child, unaware of the disapproving glances from other mothers at the daycare. The children seemed to be adjusting well, but she's struggling to connect with other moms, feeling isolated. When she attempted to explain her divorce and remarriage to her own parents, their fury was directed at Robert, leading to their estrangement. It's all a consequence of her choices. As for the house, Jack now resides there alone. I contemplated selling it, but couldn't bear to part with it, considering it's been Mom's home since birth, a repository of cherished memories. Despite my insistence that the house felt eerie after everything that happened, Jack couldn't bring himself to sell it due to overwhelming guilt. Perhaps influenced by my constant aversion to the house, Jack arranged for it to be professionally cleaned and cleared out of all remnants of Robert and Susan. Despite his efforts, Jack felt remorseful, acknowledging the pain he caused Mom. "Even though it was because of that woman, I did something terrible to Mom. I know you probably won't forgive me, but please visit me or come to the house on a whim, and let me show you some devotion," he pleaded, offering me a ticket for a hot springs trip. Though I'm not ready to forgive him just yet, Jack's remorse has touched me. I'm considering taking steps to rebuild our parent-child relationship to what it once was. I bought a car worth $100,000 with some old man's money just after my husband's funeral. Ashley and I were mentally and physically exhausted, yet Julia said this with glee. David was happily looking at the contract Julia had brought. "Whose money are you talking about? What on earth is going on?" I couldn't help but raise my voice in frustration. Despite the fact that Ashley and I were mourning the loss of my husband, our eldest son and his wife seemed not only unbothered but even pleased. "The insurance money will be deposited, right? Plus, there should be an inheritance." Out of Julia's bag came, unbelievably, my husband's bank book. Seeing that, I burst into laughter. "What's so funny? You're planning to use that to buy. I feel sorry for you because that bank book." My words, spoken between gasps of laughter, turned the faces of our eldest son and his wife pale. "My name is Amanda Simpson. I was married to Chris and blessed with 2 children. Our eldest daughter Ashley and our eldest son David. Chris's family has been a line of doctors for generations. Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law have medical licenses. Chris had also been working hard since childhood to become a doctor. Drawn to Chris's hardworking and admirable character, which I got to know through a friend's introduction, we became a couple. Seeing Chris's dedication, our daughter Ashley also decided to pursue a career in medicine. Although Ashley wasn't necessarily academically gifted, she was diligent every day. As her mother, I was there to witness her efforts up close. I didn't force her to become a doctor. However, Chris was really pleased when she decided to become one by her own will. "Mom, I got an A rating for the medical university." When she got an A rating from her dream university in high school, I couldn't help but shed tears at her success. "No, it's not an acceptance yet. I still have to work hard without letting my guard down." I was genuinely happy to see her grow up to be such a kind and resilient person. But David, our eldest son, was quite the opposite. Born prematurely, David had always been frail, and I admit I might have been overprotective of him. But as David grew up, he got stronger and eventually caught up with his peers in physique. Without attending any cram school, he consistently scored perfect marks in elementary school tests. He grew up wonderfully, which was reassuring. However, the latter half of his middle school years, David started coming home with bruises every day. "David, what happened to you?" "Those injuries." I was concerned, but David started to ignore me. "They looked like bruises from fights. Maybe he got into some scuffles. He's a boy, after all. There are times like these." It's kind of a good thing in a way that he's grown up to stand up for himself. As long as he's not causing trouble for others, let him be, Chris said with a laugh. In hindsight, I should have listened to Chris and left things to some extent. However, my overprotective nature towards David made me anxious. I constantly questioned him about the fights and who hurt him, which drove him away. "You're so annoying. If you ask me one more time, I'll never speak to you again." Indeed, despite Chris's advice, I kept pushing. After David's stern warning, I reflected and stopped prying. But every time one bruise healed, another appeared. All I could do was watch over him with worry. While David was certainly academically talented, he ended up spending most of his time fighting and went to a local public high school. I hoped that after he outgrew his teenage years, David would discuss his future or college plans, but he remained unchanged. "Hey, madam, give me some money," he demanded rudely one day. "If you think acting like a delinquent makes you cool, you're gravely mistaken," Ashley retorted. "Huh? What did you say?" David snapped back, and it seemed like a fight was about to break out. The thought of Ashley possibly being harmed left me restless. "Don't fight, please. Here, is this for lunch money?" I quickly took a $50 note from my wallet and handed it to David. He clicked his tongue in annoyance and left, with Ashley glaring at him. How did it come to this? Did I spoil him too much? Every day I reflected and blamed myself. Even as his classmates began preparing for university entrance exams, David remained unchanged. Chris tried to talk to David multiple times out of concern, but David even began hurling abusive words at Chris. "Well, he hasn't done anything that would involve the police," Chris would say. "He has been picked up for being out late with friends more than once or twice." In the end, David neither found a job nor decided on further studies and just graduated high school. "David, what are you going to do? You can do well if you study. Isn't it better to go to college now? I'm not saying you should become a doctor, but you should get a job." David wouldn't even meet my eyes when I said this. However, a year later, David, who had been jobless and staying at home, approached me. "Hey," he said. I thought he might be asking for money again. But when I turned to look at him, David continued, "I'm having the kid. I'm getting married." I was left speechless from the shock. David continued, "But I'll start working. Can my wife and I live here?" "Wait, I still don't fully understand the situation. Let's discuss this with your father first." That night, Chris, David, and I had a conversation. We, as parents, came to terms with David's decision to work and his determination to welcome a child and wife. We decided to accept this new family. On the day we were to meet her, Chris, Ashley, and I waited at home. David had gone to fetch her. "He's late, isn't he?" I remarked. Even after the promised time of 1 o'clock, the two hadn't shown up. We worried that they might have had an accident. We tried reaching out but couldn't get in touch. Contrary to our anxiety, the two casually appeared just before 3. "We're back." "Wow, this place is massive. It's like a mansion." "Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Julia," she said. I was taken aback by the woman David had brought home. Despite claiming to be pregnant, she wore high heels, a short skirt that seemed chilly, and had long, shimmering, pointed nails. In her hand was a plastic bag from a baby goods store, and she greeted us with surprising words. "Nice to meet you. I'm David's mother. Really, you're prettier than what David described." "Nice to meet you, Amanda." Her behavior lacked any semblance of manners, and I was simply stunned. "Where's my room?" she asked. "Oh, we haven't decided yet," I replied. "Okay, I'll just leave the baby stuff in the living room then." With that, Julia entered the house and headed to the living room. She then greeted Chris and Ashley with the same casual tone. The checkout line was so long. "Sorry for being late. You all waited, right?" Returning to the living room, Julia addressed me, Chris, Ashley, and I could only exchange glances without saying a word. "Are you all nervous? Just relax, okay? Chill out." We were simply astounded by her words. We thought today was just a greeting, but Julia came in, placed a ton of luggage in the living room, and acted like she owned the place. Afterward, I greeted Julia again. She was 22 years old and apparently worked part-time at a bar. As a child, her parents divorced and she was raised by her father. However, he later disappeared, and she seems to have grown up in a children's home. I understood it must have been tough without any family, but there are kids who turn out well despite that. I don't think one's circumstances can be an excuse for rudeness. Then Ashley talked to Julia as she discussed her past. "How many weeks pregnant are you now? I noticed earlier that you're wearing high heels. Your belly doesn't seem to be showing yet, but it's dangerous." I felt relieved after Ashley kindly said that. Then on Julia's behalf, David spoke up. "Right, I thought the same, but Julia apparently only has heeled shoes. Buy her some, madam." Suddenly, the conversation shifted to me, and I was taken aback. Oh, don't be so surprised. You probably don't know my taste, right? If you give me money, I'll choose for myself. I was at a loss for words at Julia's lack of hesitation. Ashley shouted at the two of them, "Why should Mom buy it? Why don't you, David?" "But the baby inside me is her grandchild, isn't it?" Julia retorted. "So what? It's your child," Ashley shot back. "Scary. Is this what a sister-in-law is like?" "Hilarious," Julia said, mocking her. Ashley was furious at that remark, while Chris just kept silent, his mouth shut tight. What kind of attitude is this? She seems to be looking down on us even though we just met. However, we have to live together from now on. It wouldn't be wise to fight now. Over time, I believe her maternal instincts will grow and she'll change. When that time comes, she should naturally stop wearing heels and remove her nails. That's all I can hope for. Ashley, being a doctor, was particularly concerned about Julia's lack of parental awareness and said sharply, "Anyway, make sure you earn and buy your shoes before your belly gets large. Also, remove your nails. If you can't get a pulse oximeter on, they'll forcibly remove them." With that, she stormed out of the living room and locked herself in her room. Julia seemed to be mocking Ashley, but then laughed when David said, "Don't worry about her. She's just jealous because I got married before her." Then our life together began. Julia went to work but didn't help around the house. She just slept all day on her days off, using her pregnancy as an excuse. David, as he declared, started working but kept quitting after arguments and then looked for other part-time jobs. The constant job changes were quite headache-inducing, but Chris said nothing about David and Julia. It seemed he had given up on them. Then something unexpected happened. With the baby items ready and the birth of our grandchild just a month away, Chris collapsed at the hospital where he worked. Despite immediate treatment, he couldn't be saved. Even with all the challenges, I had hoped for an increase in family members. I never imagined parting with Chris before that. I was so devastated that I couldn't believe it myself, and Ashley supported me. Inspired by Ashley, I tried to act strong and managed to hold the funeral. On the morning of the funeral, I told Julia, "It's fine if you stay at home, Julia. Your belly is large and it must be hard for you." "Really? Okay, I'll stay home," she replied. In our region, it's customary not to let pregnant women attend funerals. Even without that tradition, she was about to give birth, so I said that out of concern. Julia gladly accepted my offer. It was my suggestion, and I was okay with it, but I headed to the funeral feeling a bit uneasy. David, who arrived late, seemed worried about Julia and was texting her. I did warn him once, but since the baby could come at any time, I decided to let it slide, except during the funeral. After the funeral, when I got home, I was exhausted both mentally and physically. In the living room, Ashley and I were discussing dinner in a daze. Julia came down from the second floor and handed some documents to David. "Tired, huh? Did your old man make it to heaven?" she said, laughing. David laughed as well. "Might be hell," he replied. "You guys just came back from the funeral. What are you even saying?" Ashley was furious, but I didn't have the energy to get angry anymore. "Come on, Ashley, just go with it," Julia said, pointing at the documents she had given to David. Ashley and I naturally looked at those papers. "What's that? What do you mean, go with it?" The heat of the moment left us bewildered and concerned. "I used Chris's money to buy a car worth 100 grand, Julia declared, holding up some documents. Ashley and I stared in disbelief while David looked on happily. "Whose money? What on earth are you talking about?" I raised my voice out of frustration. Chris had passed away, and while Ashley and I were grieving, the couple seemed pleased instead of saddened. "We get the insurance money, right? And there should be an inheritance," Julia said, pulling out a bank book from her bag. "Dad's bank book? Julia, did you steal it when we were out?" "That's a rude thing to say. We live together, so it's not stealing. Plus, I learned where the bank book was from David, right, David?" Julia responded defiantly. It seemed David was an accomplice. What a pitiable eldest son he was. I hadn't anticipated this at all. I looked dejectedly at the bank book in Julia's hand. Chris's name was clearly written on it, but upon a closer look, I noticed something odd. When I realized the cause of the inconsistency, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Once I started laughing, I couldn't stop. It had been a long time since I laughed so hard. Julia frowned at my uncontrollable laughter. "What's so funny? Have you lost your mind, madam?" David hurled insults at me, but I wasn't even mad anymore. All this time, I thought David was smart, but I was wrong. I felt sorry for the foolish couple. Let's see, you wanted to buy a car, right? Have you signed the contract? Are you going to use that money? I feel sorry for you. Did you see the balance in that bank book? Upon hearing my words, David hastily took the bank book from Julia and opened it. What the hell? There's only $3 in here. The couple looked at the bank book in shock. Yes, that bank book was set for closure, and the balance had already been withdrawn. This is a joke. There's supposed to be an inheritance. Where is it? And the insurance money should be deposited too. David was furious, and Julia echoed him. Yes, there's an inheritance and insurance money. Both of my parents-in-law passed away early, and Chris had a lot of inherited and accumulated assets. Notably, Chris wasn't just a doctor, he also owned several hospitals. His total assets amounted to $1 million. However, those were assets he had built, not things he owned. Most of his assets have been donated and are now gone. The medical fees he received from patients, he wanted to use them to help other patients. What? Didn't you know? He made a large donation, and it was in the newspapers. Hearing this, David began to tremble. He never showed interest in family matters and didn't read the newspaper, so his ignorance wasn't surprising. Moreover, the remaining money is managed in an online bank. I can't access it until we complete the inheritance procedures. Anyway, what about the insurance money? When will it be deposited? Julia rushed, grabbing the bank book and approaching me. Ashley, standing next to me, began to laugh. Don't you know, insurance money is not deposited into the account of the deceased but to the beneficiary's account. It'll be transferred to my account and my mother's, Ashley explained, chuckling. Hearing this, Julia's bank book slipped from her hands. David looked dumbfounded, and Ashley and I exchanged glances, stifling our laughter. What am I going to do now? I've already signed contracts, added so many options, and they told me I can't cancel. Mom, please, just this once, lend me some money. David knelt beside the distraught Julia. It had been so long since he called me Mom that it felt unfamiliar, as if a stranger was asking for a favor. I don't know. Figure it out yourselves. I pushed him away coldly. Today, I couldn't forgive the actions of my eldest son and his wife. I'm sure Chris felt the same. Mom, you must be tired. Let's go to bed, Ashley suggested. Yes, I'm not in the mood for dinner either, I added. Ashley and I stood up, ignoring the two who were sweating in the living room, and headed to the bedroom. It seemed that during the funeral, David had been communicating with Julia about a deal. I thought they were concerned about their health, but it seemed the car was more important than their unborn child. In his lifetime, Chris always said he didn't want to leave a single penny to David and Julia. As planned, the insurance money was transferred to Ashley and me. Chris died young, and David, even after starting a family, remained unreliable. Chris had thought about what might happen after his death and even left a will. According to the will, the real estate, most of the remaining cash, and the hospital were left to me. Ashley was nominated as the successor to this hospital and bequeathed his personal investments. David was given a large piece of land in the countryside. As we opened the will and heard its contents, Julia said, "So, can't we sell the land and buy a car?" Listen to the end. I interrupted Julia and continued reading. With that land and some of the cash, take $100,000 for building a house and leave this home. What does that mean? Julia asked in confusion. We were at the probate court. The will has been validated and carries full legal force. It means exactly what it says. You get the land and money to build a house. You should be grateful, but this house should eventually belong to David, the eldest son, right? I replied, looking at Julia as if she was pleading for help. I responded with a smirk. It's what I received. I decide who to give it to. You damn old woman, better start packing your bags when you get home, huh? Julia retorted. By the way, the land that Chris designated for David was about 30 miles away in the mountains. It was indeed vast but mostly untouched woodland. No matter how large the land is, if the construction cost is $100,000, the house built on it would probably be small. I bet David and Julia, who likely had nothing, would have made a fuss about the inheritance. Whether Chris gave them the land with that in mind, I don't know, but I believe Chris created an environment where Ashley and I can live peacefully. Besides, David and Julia shouldn't even have any right to receive anything. They should be grateful for whatever they can get. A few days later, a grandchild was born. Julia's water broke in the middle of the night, and she was immediately taken to the hospital after making a call. However, due to her dropping blood pressure and the hospital being understaffed at night, Julia had to have an emergency C-section. Ashley had repeatedly told her to remove her nail extensions, but she didn't listen. Apparently, the nurse possibly removed them. "No, I just got these done 3 days ago. Don't take them off, Julia. Don't move, the amniotic fluid is gushing out." They apparently had a standoff in the middle of the night. From what I heard from Ashley, this confrontation was more challenging than the surgery. "I've never had fancy nails like young people do, but it seems like it was painful. It's undoubtedly a case of getting what she deserved," I thought to myself. Julia, who had been saved along with her child, could no longer stand up to Ashley and quickly became docile. She may be upset about the inheritance, but she's no longer acting superior to us. "I hope she's grateful that we let her rest for the first month after childbirth, Mom," Ashley said regretfully. "Can we stay here? We don't need the land or the money." "No, even if you stayed here, you both only earn as much as part-time jobs and don't contribute to household expenses," I replied firmly. David's plea was met with a firm denial from both Ashley and me. Reluctantly, David went to cancel the car purchase, but he was charged a penalty fee of $10,000, which he had to pay from the $100,000 set aside for construction. Whether they were reluctant to move to the countryside or not, they considered selling the land and renting an apartment. However, the rent was too high for David and Julia's salaries, and there were no buyers for the vast woodland. They realized they had no choice but to build a house on it, as stated in the will. Desperately, they started looking for a contractor who could build a house for $90,000, but it wasn't going well. "The baby is still young, so I'm letting you all stay here for now. You can leave whenever you want, okay?" I told David, who fell silent at my words. A week later, they found a construction company, but all they could afford was a small prefabricated hut. I didn't expect Julia to keep it clean, so even a small house should be fine. I told the couple who were preparing to move, "You'll need to decide on daycare, so until you're settled, I can take care of the baby. You both should become independent as parents first." "You're taking our child, you monster," Julia exclaimed angrily, but David stopped her. "With just my earnings, it's impossible to support the two of them. Let's leave our baby here until things settle." "No way, I'll divorce you then," Julia threatened. "Even if you do, you still won't have a home," I interjected calmly. It seemed David was finally facing reality, desperately trying to convince the furious Julia. "Then don't make it come to that," I said. "I didn't say I'd take her away. If you can, take her with you." When I snorted and said this, Julia bit her lip in frustration and quieted down. She must have realized that she had no choice but to temporarily part with her baby. Afterward, the couple quietly packed their things and left. I did feel sorry for the baby, however, having parents like that might not make much difference. Of course, if they changed their ways, it would be best for the baby to be raised by her own parents. But I couldn't help but think that the baby might be happier being raised by Ashley and me. David and Julia, who moved to their new land, contacted us almost every day. If it was about the granddaughter, I was happy to reply. But all they ever asked for was money. When ignored, they sent pictures of bread for dinner. Seeing this, Ashley laughed. Even if they ruin their health, they won't be able to afford medical bills. "In the countryside, a car is essential," I commented. They're currently driving a used car they bought for $3,000, which frequently stalls. They might be saying this to gain our sympathy, but they don't know it's just a laughing matter for us, Ashley added. "In this situation, they probably won't be able to take their daughter back," I concluded. "But as long as we can live with our adorable granddaughter, I think it's okay." When she turned 3, she was very cute, kind, and nothing like David or Julia. She was a hard worker. Ashley bought her a number puzzle, and she eagerly learned numbers and could already read letters. "David and Julia are still living day by day," Ashley observed. Occasionally, when they receive pictures of their daughter, they exclaim, "Super cute," as if looking at a stuffed toy. "It still seems impossible for the two of them to become parents," I mused. "When the granddaughter grows up, I hope she can learn from her parents' mistakes and grow up straight. That's what I think."
Have you ever heard of divorce papers being filed without your consent? I had, but I never thought it would happen to me. I was relieved I divorced someone with no money and sick, until I received such an email while hospitalized from the stress of my husband's infidelity. That email shattered my hopes. As soon as I was discharged, I took what I had in hand and went straight to the bank, determined to make my former husband, an elite bank employee, pay for his betrayal. My name is Courtney, a handmade artist. I was married to Tom for 6 years. We met as colleagues at the bank and were happy together, but things changed in the last 6 months. Tom started coming home late and became glued to his phone. He used to talk inside the house, but then he began going out to his car for calls. Suspecting an affair, I hired a detective agency after much deliberation. It cost some money, but I thought it was worth it for peace of mind. A month after hiring the agency, I found out about Tom's affair. His lover was Michelle, a teller at the same bank. The report included photos of them entering a hotel, kissing on the street, and enjoying meals together. Despite the evidence, I couldn't give up on Tom. I believed his affair was a moment of folly and that he would return to me. I changed my hairstyle, put on makeup, cooked with more effort, and always smiled, but all my efforts went unnoticed. Tom stopped touching his food, which increased my stress. I had resolved not to confront him, but seeing him happily leave the house on the phone every day made it impossible to hold back. "You seem busy lately, getting a lot of calls. Is work so demanding that you need to handle it even after you come home?" "Yeah," he replied. "You quit the bank to marry me after working there for about 2 years, right? You might not understand, but it's a busy season now. It's easy for you, isn't it? No busy season, no earnings, just a leisurely life as a handmade artist." Tom laughed in a way that mocked me. The Tom I knew would never have said such things about my work or laughed at me like that. He used to praise my pieces and support me through late-night work sessions. "You don't have to say it like that. I might not be as busy as you, but I take my work seriously. I'm not living leisurely at all. I don't know how much you're earning, but it's definitely less than me, right? I'm paying half of everything, rent, utilities, living expenses, so that you can live. It's tough being a woman with no earning power. You wouldn't survive if I divorced you." What kind of thing is that to say? I make enough to cover my share, but that's not the point right now. Do you want to divorce me? Unable to control myself after hearing the word divorce from Tom, I started crying uncontrollably. Tom sighed, annoyed, and left the living room, telling me not to cry over every little thing. Tom's attitude towards me grew colder. The next day, he completely ignored me, not even meeting my gaze. Despite the situation, I kept wondering how we could return to being the happy couple we once were. The immense stress led to sleepless nights and spontaneous tears. Unable to bear it alone, I met with my high school friend Sophia for advice. Sophia, still single, was a successful career woman. Tearfully, I shared my feelings with her, feelings I couldn't share with anyone else. Tom is completely infatuated with Michelle. He comes home later and later. I don't know what to do anymore. "Do you still love your husband, Courtney? Do you want to get back to how things were before?" Sophia asked. I honestly expressed my feelings. It's stupid, but I still love him. I don't want to give up, but everything is so hard. Just then, I started coughing violently and bent over. I've had asthma since before, and it had worsened due to the stress from my relationship with Tom. I took out my inhaler, but I was coughing so much that I couldn't inhale at all. The relentless coughing made me suffer unbearably. Unable to remain seated, I collapsed onto the floor. Courtney, are you okay? Please, someone call an ambulance." Sophia called out desperately, but I couldn't respond and lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. "Courtney, thank goodness you're awake. Are you okay? Can you understand me?" When I looked toward the voice, I saw Sophia with tears in her eyes. Attempting to speak cautiously, I managed to utter, "Thanks," despite coughing. Sophia nodded while crying and immediately pressed the nurse call button. The attending doctor arrived and explained that due to the severity of my asthma symptoms, I would need to be hospitalized for about a week. With nothing prepared for a sudden hospitalization, Sophia bought me a hospital admission set from the shop and filled out the necessary paperwork. I tried to inform my husband about my hospitalization, but couldn't reach him. Sophia tried calling Tom's cell phone, but he didn't answer. Considering contacting my workplace, I hesitated, fearing their reaction. Eventually, Sophia helped me draft an email, which she sent on my behalf. Sophia stayed until the end of visiting hours and then left. I drifted in and out of sleep due to the medication, constantly checking for any messages from Tom. The first message from him came at 1:00 a.m. "If you're hospitalized, there's nothing I can do. I'm busy with work, so I won't visit you." Upon reading that email, I felt truly sad, hurt, and miserable. It wasn't just that Tom said he couldn't come because he was busy, but that he wouldn't come at all. This made it clear to me that he no longer had any love for me. I thought I shouldn't cry, but tears came uncontrollably. I didn't reply to the email and just cried until morning. 2 days passed. Tom didn't visit, but Sophia diligently showed up after work. That's great, you look a bit better. Are you able to eat? I brought your favorite novel. Sophia's lively visits and smiles saved me. I can't thank her enough. Thank you, Sophia. I'm feeling quite good today. My cough has settled down a lot. The doctor said he might discharge me in about 2 more days. Sophia was really happy and started planning for us to go out and eat something healthy after my discharge. As Sophia and I were discussing where to go, I received an email notification. The subject line read, "Glad I divorced a broke, sick person." Reading the email from Tom over and over, I couldn't understand its meaning and just froze with my phone in hand, my heart racing and my mind in turmoil. You don't earn much, do you? Falling sick without doing any serious work. Don't make me laugh. Wife lottery, a big failure. So I filed for divorce. Take care. Seeing the follow-up email, I laughed unconsciously. It felt like a farce, getting divorced by Tom while hospitalized for asthma. Tears came along with the laughter, and I found myself crying and laughing at the same time. Seeing me like that, Sophia shook my shoulders in a panic. "Courtney, what happened? Are you okay?" I handed my phone to Sophia, showing her the emails from Tom. As she read the messages, Sophia's face turned red with anger. "Look, Courtney, I know you love your husband, and I didn't want to say anything, but maybe it's time to let go." I understood what Sophia meant. Even though she started crying from the emotion, she managed to put her words together. "Just divorce him, Courtney. You need to take care of yourself, no matter how much you love him. Sorry to be blunt, but you can't be happy with such a shitty man." Sophia looked sorry, knowing it was not her place to meddle in marital affairs, but I smiled back at her. It's okay, really. I knew deep down that it was impossible to continue, but I lacked the courage to divorce. I always looked away, but it's over now. I'll divorce Tom. When Tom brought up divorce, I was afraid of the separation. I still loved Tom and was scared of how others would react to our divorce. But once I made the decision myself, the fear of divorcing somehow disappeared. I think it's because I could finally think clearly enough to say, let's give up. That's the way to go. Let's enjoy being single again together. Yeah, I feel so much better. Thank you, Sophia. Having you here, I'm really grateful. Courtney, you're my precious friend, of course. But wait, how did he manage to file for divorce without your signature? Sophia's anger flared up again. I explained, when we got married, we prepared divorce papers just in case. It was silly, but we agreed to try to talk through anything and overcome any crisis as a couple. Well, that didn't work out, did it? I could laugh about it, but Sophia didn't seem amused. In disbelief, she said, "I see, so he just pulled those out, filled in his part, and submitted them. It might not be a forgery, but it's still appalling." I was afraid of being divorced by Tom in such a state, so I had hidden them in the room. He probably found them and submitted them. Now I'm actually glad he did it. I couldn't decide to divorce Tom because I still loved him, but now it's different. As Tom's feelings for me have vanished, so have mine for him. I'm not foolish enough to keep loving someone who does this to me. Tom still sent one-sided messages. "You probably don't have any property, and I don't want to give you any of my money, so we're not dividing any assets. The house is in my name, so get out. I'm being kind by giving you until the end of the month. I don't want to bump into you, so I won't return until after the month is over. Make sure you clean the room before you leave." Honestly, at this point, I was in a "what is this guy even thinking" state, and the sheer selfishness made me laugh again. I showed the email to Sophia, laughing. "Look, Sophia, now I've lost the house too. What should I do? Going back to my parents is too far. I had no intention of staying in that house, and there were my valuable handmade parts to consider. Transporting them would probably fill an entire room. The right size, security, rent. Could I find a perfect place that quickly?" While I was pondering, Sophia smiled. "Have you forgotten where your best friend works? Don't worry, dear customer, I'll find the perfect room for you." "Sorry, I really forgot." "That's right, Sophia, please help me." I thanked Sophia. Sophia worked in real estate and was a pro at finding places. I decided to leave everything to Sophia, a capable woman. She brought various property listings to my hospital bed, spreading them out and explaining each one to me. By the time I was discharged, we had managed to find a place close to my preferences, which was a relief. However, I needed certain documents that I couldn't get until after my discharge, so I decided to stay at Sophia's place in the meantime. "I'm really sorry I keep causing you trouble," I said. "It's okay," Sophia reassured me. "I've got good sales, right? I've been here second longest after the manager. Sorry, rental agreements take time because there's a lot of paperwork and an inspection process. You can stay at my place as long as you need until everything is settled." "Thank you so much. If there's anything I can do, just let me know. Just take care of yourself for now. Let's take it easy. So, how have things been? Any more contact from your ex-husband?" No, not a single word from him. After all, we're strangers now. I do get messages from people from our bank days, though. Apparently, I was branded as a terrible wife. It seems that my ex-husband Tom reported our divorce at his workplace and blamed me for it. He told people I didn't do housework, didn't contribute financially to the household, and yet splurged on my hobbies. He said that any attempt at discussion would end with me getting hysterical and uncontrollable. It's laughable at this point. Who does he think he is to say that? I'd love to remind him who was the one cheating. Sophia seemed to have reached a point where all she could do was laugh. So, what's your plan? You're not going to let this end here, are you? Courtney, what are you going to do? Grinning mischievously, Sophia looked at me, and I couldn't help but smile back. There was no way I was going to let this end here. Tom had his turn doing whatever he pleased, but now it was my turn. Of course, I have no intention of holding back against a man without sincerity and a woman who meddles with a married man. I have quite a few things in mind, so look forward to it. Just you wait, both of you. Enjoy your peaceful newlywed life while you can. 2 days after my successful discharge, Sophia drove me straight to the bank where my ex-husband Tom and his new wife Michelle worked. Upon entering the bank, I saw Tom in the back. It had been a while since I last saw him, about a month and a half. I was hospitalized when he filed for divorce. I thought I would be furious seeing him, but I wasn't. I looked for Michelle at the counter, and there she was, sitting with a composed face, the woman who had taken my husband away. I took a number and waited for my turn. Fortunately, I was called to Michelle's counter. She greeted me with a welcome, and I responded with a smile. "Hello, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'd like to cancel a bank account." "Certainly, is it just one account you wish to cancel?" "Here we go." I took a deep breath and projected my voice. "No, not just one. I'm here to cancel accounts for all 800 employees of my company." The counter buzzed with whispers at my declaration. Tom looked over, shocked at what he saw. He seemed to want to say something, his mouth opening and closing. All 800 accounts. Michelle was flustered at the counter, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of laughter. Canceling 800 salary accounts would be a significant loss for the bank. It's not just about losing deposits. With interest rates being low, banks count on transaction fees and salary transfer fees for their profits. Losing that is a big deal. Yes, all of them. Please proceed. As I handed over the corporate account documents, I made my request. "What the hell are you doing, Courtney? Did you just say something about a company? 800 employees? What's that about?" Tom approached the counter, causing a stir among the other customers in the bank. "Oh, long time no see. How have you been?" I said calmly. "What do you mean? It's exactly as I said. I have been a company president even when I was married to you. It's a handmade business, so I'm both an artist and a president." I spoke the truth at the counter. "You were a president? I didn't know that. You never said anything about that when we were married, did you?" "No, I didn't. You used to mock me for being a failing handmade artist, right? I earn more than you do. I didn't want to hurt your pride, so I kept it to myself." Michelle, who had no idea who I was, looked at me in shock. She whispered softly, wondering if I was really the person she thought I was. "Hello, I'm his ex-wife. Please proceed with the cancellation quickly." Tom and Michelle were frozen, not knowing how to react to the unexpected situation. Then I heard a familiar voice. "Miss Courtney, it's been a while. You seem well." There stood Mr. Johnson, my boss before. When I married Tom, he was a strict person, and many of my peers found him difficult. But I liked him. He was as strict with himself as he was with others. When I got married to Tom, Mr. Johnson tearfully wished me happiness. "Mr. Johnson, it's been too long." "You look well," I said, momentarily forgetting why I was there, happy to see Mr. Johnson. "Yes, I'm doing well. Tom told me about the divorce, and I've been worried about you. It seems you've been through a lot. How about we talk in the back room while we wait?" "Of course. These two and I will be there," I said, glancing at Tom and Michelle. Mr. Johnson's gaze was sharp, likely because of my divorce and Tom's remarriage to Michelle. Their faces, which were red a moment ago, turned pale. They seemed to be having a busy day, changing colors like that. "I don't mind at all. I'd love to catch up with you, Mr. Johnson." "Great. Let's go to the reception room on the 3rd floor. You two, come along," he said. We headed to the 3rd floor where the customer reception room was located. Mr. Johnson opened the door for us, and we entered and took our seats. "It's really been a long time, Mr. Johnson. I feel regret for meeting under these circumstances," I spoke honestly, and Mr. Johnson smiled back. "No worries. I was surprised by the situation, but I'm glad to see you're doing well. I was shocked to hear about the divorce from him, and even more so about his quick remarriage." Mr. Johnson glanced at Michelle and continued, "And I don't believe the divorce was your fault, as he claimed." "Wait a minute, Mr. Johnson. Are you implying that we're to blame?" Tom interjected. Is that not the case? If I'm wrong, I apologize. But you see, I've known Courtney for several years. She was always organized, the most meticulous when it came to cleaning. And if I recall correctly, she used to bring homemade lunches every day, right? Mr. Johnson's precise recollection of these details made me feel appreciated for my efforts. Not doing housework, not contributing financially to the household, but spending on hobbies and becoming hysterical during discussions. That's what you've been spreading around as the reason for divorce. But Courtney is not like that. Hearing Mr. Johnson defend me so firmly brought tears to my eyes. It felt overwhelming to have someone who understood, but that's the truth. Tom insisted, "You only know her from a work perspective, and you might suspect we had an inappropriate relationship, but that's not true." "Yes, that's right. I never cheated," Michelle added. I just couldn't stand seeing Tom so down after his divorce, and while I was cheering him up, he proposed, Michelle said, tears streaming down her face like a tragic heroine. Their blatant lies in front of Mr. Johnson were infuriating. Ridiculous. I was the one who was hurt. I took a document about the thickness of a notebook from my bag. "Would you like to see this, Mr. Johnson? You two can look as well." "Oh, but perhaps there's no need. You're probably well aware of what's in it." I handed over the investigation report from the detective agency to Mr. Johnson. He took it, smoothly dodging Michelle's attempt to grab it with a scream. "Sit down and be quiet," Mr. Johnson commanded sternly. Michelle shrieked and clung to Tom. "What is this? You said your wife was too stupid to notice anything." "This is not what you told me," Michelle exclaimed. "It's not like that. She really is stupid. I never thought she would do something like this," Tom stammered. "Calling people stupid too much, aren't you?" I was about to retort when Mr. Johnson's furious shout exploded. "The idiots here are you two. Cheating on your wife, Tom, and you, Michelle, getting involved with a married man and playing the victim. You two are the offenders and Courtney is the victim." "Thank you for saying everything I wanted to say. It feels refreshing. But may I add something?" "Of course, say it. I won't stop you," Mr. Johnson replied, his strong support empowering me. He nodded at me vigorously and began reading the report with intense focus, his frown deepening. "You called me stupid, but do you think a stupid person can run a company? It turns out you were the one with the lesser income. How much was your salary again?" $100,000? That's plenty." Tom was so proud of his $100,000 salary, which seemed hilarious to me. Michelle nodded along, seemingly proud as well. "Is that so? Well, it's not bad, but mine is $400,000. I have 800 employees, and it's only our 4th year in business." "The handmade business you look down on. I started a company with my friends. $400,000. $400,000. Tom and Michelle's faces were priceless. The information that the person they underestimated was actually a company president earning $400,000 was too much for them. "Yes, business is booming, so we're planning to hire more staff. I thought it would be beneficial to have our employee accounts with your bank, but there's no need to be considerate anymore. So I'm canceling them all." "Wait, just wait a minute. If you cancel, the bank's deposits will decrease. Having salary accounts means potential for housing mortgages and such. It's a big loss for the bank if you cancel," Tom stammered, seemingly forgetting that I used to be a bank employee and that this was basic knowledge for anyone in the field. "Yes, I'm aware. It's basic knowledge for a bank employee, isn't it? Are you underestimating me? Why should I be considerate of an ex-husband who cheated and filed for divorce while his wife was hospitalized with asthma? And these two seem to forget something crucial. I made sure to remind them, and you had an affair within the bank. Do you really think you can continue on the elite path as if nothing happened? You too, Michelle?" By the time I looked at Michelle, she had already started crying. Tom, looking down in frustration, suddenly prostrated himself. "Please, I'm sorry. Forgive me. It was just a fling, you understand, right? She came on to me strongly, and well, I just went along with it." Michelle screamed at Tom's words. "What do you mean by that? Am I the one to blame? You're the one who said there was no love left for your wife, that things weren't working out." Michelle clung to and shook Tom. The drama unfolding before me was so cheap that I couldn't help but laugh. Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Are you kidding me? What value does such a prostration hold, especially when you have no value to begin with? Mr. Johnson took over, his voice dripping with disdain. "Exactly. Having seen incontrovertible evidence, I'll make sure you are punished accordingly. Your affair has led to the bank suffering the disadvantage of a mass account cancellation. You seem well aware of the disadvantages of account cancellations, so I assume you have no objections to the punishment." As Mr. Johnson posed the question, Tom could only hang his head low while Michelle cried out loud. I wish they would stop playing the victims until the very end. Leaving their fate in Mr. Johnson's hands, I left the room. By the time our conversation ended, the account cancellations had been completed, and I left the bank feeling refreshed. Later, Mr. Johnson informed me that both had been dismissed for their misconduct. Their affair had resulted in a significant loss of accounts for the bank, which was deemed to have a substantial negative impact. Unemployed, the two struggled to find work, unable to pay their apartment's mortgage, and were turned down when asking friends for money. Interestingly, Tom kept sending me messages and emails begging for reconciliation after divorcing Michelle, all of which I ignored. The laughably pathetic emails were forwarded to Sophia, and we enjoyed a good laugh. I also filed for compensation through a lawyer. Tom had the audacity to claim that since I started my company after our marriage, its assets should be divided between us. Unfortunately for him, the assets in the company's name are exempt from division. I thought divorce would be difficult, but working hard post-divorce has made me realize how happy I am. I even wish I had divorced sooner. Humans are strange creatures. With plenty of money to spend freely and no grievances, I've decided to live my life valuing myself more from now on.
Are you done packing yet? Please make it quick. We plan to remodel your rooms once you move out, my oldest son's wife, Sarah, said impatiently, not even offering to help us pack. She seemed thrilled to claim this house as their own. Little did she know. Glancing at my husband, John silenced me with a look and turned a serene smile to Sarah. We're sorry for keeping you waiting. We'll leave by tomorrow with the movers coming in. It'd be best if you two stayed in your rooms. We were leaving behind the furniture and appliances we shared with Sarah and David. Besides our stuff from the bedroom and wardrobe, we didn't have much left to pack. We'd probably take less than half an hour to move out. The following day, our farewell was surprisingly dry. Well, we're off. Take care, we said. No apologies, no words of gratitude. They didn't see us off either. Sarah and David simply glanced at us from their leisure in the living room. Since they were so indifferent, we didn't need to make a fuss about leaving. But as we got into the cab silently, I couldn't help but worry about our cat. We were leaving her with them. Could Sarah properly care for her? Would she raise her with affection? I dialed a number on my phone as our house receded from view through the cab's window. In hindsight, it might have been my sixth sense that ticked off then. I'm Patricia, 64. I've been married to John, who's a year older than me, for 35 years. We've never had a major fight, and I would say we're pretty close. John worked for a foreign company and was often busy, but he always spent his spare time with the family. With his recent retirement, I was excited to spend more time with him, but it seems like I was the only one happy about his retirement. Our eldest son's wife was upset about it, and it was apparent. David and Sarah had been living with us in our house for a year now since their marriage. Sarah, David's wife, was actually the one who suggested we live together. We have a subway station nearby, and with a well-developed public transportation system in our area, commuting to work and going for shopping is pretty easy, which is why Sarah loved our place. My husband John and I had initially been reluctant, considering they were newlyweds, but we eventually gave in, leading to our current situation. Not even in our wildest dreams did we think things would turn out this way. What on earth are you thinking? That was one day about 2 months after John retired from his company. Just as I had returned from shopping, I heard John's booming voice and froze in the living room. John was scolding our eldest son David, who was sitting on the couch. It was unusual to find John this angry, since he's usually calm and gentle. What's going on? With a heavy sigh, John turned to me. David was rummaging through my bag and stealing money from my wallet. What? Apparently, he lost big on a trifecta bet at the Kentucky Derby and a strap for cash. With that, John snatched a few dollar bills and his wallet from David's hand. It was indeed John's wallet. I was sure of it because I had given it to him as a gift on our 20th wedding anniversary. The fact that David was holding the wallet and money was undeniable proof that what John said was true. David, didn't you quit wagering on horses? You lost big before and swore you'd never do it again. So why? Whether he heard me or not, David just continued to watch TV without responding. Ever since he was a child, he would often ignore us when we lectured him or talked about something that didn't interest him. There were times that he didn't remember the things I've told him verbally. This time was no different, and it seemed my pleas had no effect. However, even without an answer from David, I had a hunch about why he had started betting on horse racing again. Oh, it must be Sarah. David never cared about horse racing to begin with. He would never stoop so low as to take money from someone else's wallet, and he had never committed any crime like shoplifting. If I asked what caused such a drastic change in David, who was a hard-working office worker, I would answer without a doubt, it was meeting Sarah. Sarah is a bright and active woman. When we were first introduced to her, I hoped she would help bring David, who was introverted, out of his shell. But back then, I never knew about her hobby, that she was a huge fan of horse racing, and that her sense of spending is completely off-kilter. "You heard your mother talking, so why don't you at least say something?" said my frustrated husband as he turned off the TV. At that, David finally opened his mouth. "Shut up. I've paid you back, so stop nagging me. Besides, what's got you so worked up about a couple of $100 bills?" "What?" I was actually surprised at how light your wallet was. "You've really gone downhill, haven't you, Dad?" "Well, I'm retired, so what did you expect?" "How lame." With that, David left the living room. I almost tried to stop him, but my husband held me back. I'm at fault too for carelessly leaving my wallet around. Besides, repeatedly scolding him isn't going to help. But his attitude is far too unacceptable. This is too much. John has never been the kind of person to flaunt his role as the main breadwinner of the family. But it's a plain fact that it's thanks to him that we are able to maintain our lifestyle, and he provides for David and his wife as well. They're able to save on rent and living expenses as well, since they always come up with an excuse not to contribute to the household's expenses. So it's my husband who's been covering the majority of our expenses. And yet, instead of respecting John, David disparaged him. David's comments were unacceptable, but I was also enraged with his wife for introducing him to gambling. A few days later, still feeling uneasy, I decided to ask David's wife directly. "It seems like David is struggling with money lately. Do you know anything about it?" "Oh, he apparently took a big hit at the Kentucky Derby." "You knew about it?" "Yeah, after all, I was the one who suggested we go together," she admitted. Just as I thought, sure enough, David had been drawn back into horse racing by Sarah. "Why would you do such a thing?" "David was trying to quit horse racing," I interjected. "Is that so? I had no idea." "Please, Sarah, I'm begging you not to invite David to the horse races anymore. If this keeps up, won't you be in trouble too?" "Well, we each have our own earnings and we're just doing what we like, so I have no problem with it," she replied nonchalantly. I was taken aback by her reply. Certainly, both David and Sarah, as a couple, were earning their own money and could spend it on whatever, as long as they had food, rent, and clothing covered. But you two are a married couple, right? You might even have kids in the future. For their sake as well. We've decided not to have children. We don't want to give up the things we love just to be tied down raising the kid," she revealed. I was shocked again by her response. There was too much information to process all at once, but in a way, it made sense. Having children would require them to have more savings by tens of thousands of dollars, which is probably why they could be so careless with money. But even without children, a married couple is still a married couple. But as a couple, you should support each other when in trouble, right? David is in trouble right now. Well, why don't you, Patricia, and the rest of the family help him out? You're his parents and well off, right? "Oh, are you living off your pension now? But you had your retirement fund, didn't you?" "My husband worked for a foreign company, so we don't have a retirement fund." "Really? That's a bummer," she remarked casually. "I thought you had a nice retirement payout." "We don't, so I need you and David as a couple to be more financially responsible. To be honest, the living expenses are already quite a burden, and we can't afford to cover for you guys anymore." "Isn't that David's fault for losing? I can't take responsibility for that. But anyway, we can't right now." I was unable to secure a promise to support David and found myself ejected from David and Sarah's room. A week passed, and David's financial problems remained unsolved. Was he so desperate that he had to pilfer money from his parents' wallet? Shouldn't we help him before he resorts to illegal activity? I discussed it over and over with my husband John, but in the end, this was the result of us spoiling him in the past. John convinced me that we needed to be firm this time for his future's sake, and I had to agree. We were providing him breakfast and dinner, and he had a pass for commuting to work. The goal was simply to have him make it until his next paycheck, but then the situation took an unexpected turn. It happened on a weekend night as we finished our dinner and were relaxing in the living room as usual. Ding dong. Our doorbell rang, but we weren't expecting any visitors. So I approached the front door to see who was visiting us this late at night. I opened the door, wondering if I had a package scheduled for delivery, only to be taken aback. Standing there was Sarah, apparently unable to open the door as her hands were full with a cardboard box. "What's going on? What's this box for?" As I hurriedly took the box from her, a rustling sound echoed from within, causing me to let out a scream. In an instant, the box opened, and I found myself face to face with the animal inside. It was a cat. "Isn't it cute?" "I found it abandoned on my way home," Sarah said with a proud grin. I was momentarily stunned, but I quickly remembered the gravity of the situation and yelled toward the living room, "John, go to her bedroom and shut the door immediately." I then closed the box and pushed it back towards Sarah. "I'm sorry, but we can't keep a cat in our house." "Ha! Why is that?" Sarah looked confused. I explained to her that my husband, John, has a severe cat allergy. In addition to developing inflammation upon contact with cat saliva, he also suffers asthma-like symptoms when inhaling cat hair or dander. There was even a time in the past when he was rushed to the hospital because David had returned from a friend's house covered in fur. I thought I had already told Sarah about this when we started living together, but she seemed to have forgotten. "So, what are you saying? Do you want me to take it back where I found it? In this cold weather, it'll die." Sarah's statement left me at a loss for words. I couldn't possibly tell her to return it to the freezing cold outside. However, I can't expose my husband to danger either. "All right, you can keep it in your room for tonight, but just for tonight. Tomorrow, we'll contact an animal shelter and ask them to take it in." I thought that, at the very least, an animal shelter would provide temporary refuge for the cat. Sarah reluctantly nodded in agreement to my suggestion. I told my husband and son about it, and they agreed to let the cat stay in John and Sarah's room for the night. However, things didn't go as smoothly as expected the next morning. John and Sarah changed their minds and decided to keep the cat. "Sarah, that's not what we agreed on." "But I really want to keep it. It's so cute." "Why can't I keep it?" "Because your dad is allergic to cats. He'll be fine as long as he doesn't touch it." "We'll take good care of it, please. You won't be home during work, right?" "Who will take care of it then?" "I can't, which is why I'm telling you that we can't keep it." How terrible. I didn't know that even you can be so inconsiderate, unable to even save a small and cute kitten. Animal shelters, they end up euthanizing them, you know? Handing it over to such a place just because it's inconvenient for you, turning a blind eye to the sacrifice. Do you know what they call people like you? A boomer. Why? You're just a nuisance. If you can't live with this kitten, then please leave this house immediately, Sarah snapped. I was about to snap back at her, but David chimed in. "It's a good opportunity. Why don't you guys move into a retirement home? It might be comfortable. You're at that age and we're not taking care of you guys. You guys aren't even bringing in any income anymore. I've had enough." "Fine." Suddenly, my husband, who had been silently listening to our argument, interrupted me. Since last night's incident, he'd been wearing gloves and a mask and keeping a distance from David and his wife. I felt sorry for making him uncomfortable in his own home. "The reason we can't keep the cat is my fault. I will take your advice and leave," John said. As David said, this might be a good opportunity to consider moving into a retirement home. Saying that, John looked at me. Understanding his intentions, I remained silent. David and his wife probably took this as us giving up on our house. They suddenly became more cocky. "We'll take good care of this house, so don't worry. But keep the property under your name. The paperwork and payments are a pain. Moving into a retirement home can be quite expensive, you know. Please handle yourselves. Don't rely on us." "We aren't helping," they said, seeming relieved, even joyful, at our compliance. This must be their true nature. Perhaps they picked up that kitten on purpose, hoping for this to happen. I realized that we had been manipulated by Sarah. For the following week, I began packing while looking out for John. David and his wife, who had lost all reserve, continued to throw veiled insults at us. But they probably realized that if John collapsed, our move out would only get delayed. So they did not let the cat out of their room. That was the only promise they kept. "Are you done packing yet? Please make it quick. We plan to remodel your rooms once you move out," Sarah said impatiently, not even offering to help us pack. It seemed they couldn't wait to make this house their own. They really don't know anything, do they? I glanced at my husband. He silently calmed me down and gave a gentle smile to Sarah. "We're sorry for keeping you two waiting. We'll leave by tomorrow. The mover's coming in. It'd be best if you two stay in your rooms," he said. We were leaving the furniture and appliances that we shared with Sarah and David behind. Besides our stuff from the bedroom and wardrobe, we didn't have much left to pack. I bet it won't even take 30 minutes to move everything out. And came the next day. Our farewell was surprisingly dry. Well, we're off, I said. All right, take care, Sarah replied. No apologies, no words of gratitude. And they didn't see us off either. Sarah and David simply glanced at us from their leisure in the living room. Since they were so indifferent, we didn't need to make a fuss about leaving. But as we got in a cab, silently, I couldn't help but worry about our cat. We were leaving her with them. Could Sarah properly care for her? Would she raise her with affection? As our house receded from view through the cab's window, I dialed the number on my phone. In hindsight, it might have been my sixth sense that ticked off then. I did have some concerns about our life after moving out, but things became much easier for me. After all, we had 2 fewer people to worry about. Everything from meals to making choices, I only had to put in half the effort I used to. No need for considerations or worries. I felt like I had regained the freedom I had before David got married. About a week into this new daily routine, I received a call from Sarah one evening. After getting my husband's approval, I answered the call. Suddenly, a frantic voice echoed from the other end of the line. Patricia, what's going on? Power and gas have been cut off. It seemed that she had just gotten home. She was so flustered that the call had accidentally switched to video, but all that could be seen on the screen was the light from a flashlight moving around in a pitch-black room. I couldn't see her face. That's because we canceled the contract for our utility bills. Of course, they'd be off, I explained. What? What do you mean? Why did you cancel them? Are you trying to get us in trouble? Are you doing this because we kicked you out? Sarah's voice rose in panic. Sarah, calm down. Is David there? My husband's calm voice seemed to pacify her somewhat. He just got home, Sarah responded. David seemed to be having a mild panic attack at the sight of their pitch-black house. We waited for them to calm down before my husband explained the truth. We've actually sold the house. The new owner has been decided, and the handover date is coming up soon. That's why we canceled our utilities contract. Sold? We weren't told about this. Were you going through the process without telling us? We live here. I couldn't help but interrupt Sarah, hearing her entitled claim. I had to tell David about the contract and the handover date, even the progress. However, judging by Sarah's reaction, it was clear that David had not passed the message on to her. Rather, he may not even remember what he was told, given his habit of not listening. Over the past few months, the house had been in chaos due to meetings with real estate agents and potential buyers. David and Sarah, who were hardly home during the day, must have been oblivious to all this. There were plenty of chances for them to notice what was going on, but they missed them all. They simply never cared about what went on in the house. And that's on them. So, I assumed you guys would move out soon after we did. Have you not moved out yet? I decided to ask, feigning ignorance. Immediately, a quarrel erupted on the other end of the line. Accusations were thrown around. It's your fault. I didn't know we'd been fooled, and the image of David and Sarah arguing in the dark was both surreal and amusing. However, once their argument ended, David and Sarah turned their frustration back on us. Even so, isn't it overbearing to proceed with this without a consensus? I don't remember agreeing to this, Sarah complained. Well, I did get a reply when I asked if it was okay to sell the house. You said, yeah, sure, I responded. Technically, all I received was an absent-minded response from David, who was watching TV at the time. Still, he agreed to it. It's his fault for not listening and giving careless responses when I told him, I added. David was momentarily speechless, but then he seemed to have a change of heart and shouted loudly, enough. I get it. So what are we supposed to do? What do you mean? Where are we supposed to live? Where do we go now? You've prepared a place for us, right? David's yelling took my husband aback. Why? My husband asked back, puzzled. Our son was taken aback by this answer. You kicked us out. Why do we have to find you a new place? I interjected. But we really didn't kick you out. You were planning to leave anyway, right? So it's not our fault at all. Besides, it was your decision to sell the house. It's your responsibility to secure housing for us since we are affected by this, I argued. Yeah, that's right. For a rental, you pay some amount for leaving, then you gotta pay us some money too. I know you made a lot from selling the house. Rental, huh? Before paying you any vacating fee, you should pay us the rent for the period you were living in that house, shouldn't you? Plus, we covered all your living expenses too. Let's have you pay all of that upfront, including rent and living expenses. It'll be about $7,000 for a year. You can pay it right now, can't you?" David and his wife remained silent with a groan. Considering David's financial situation, we were well aware that they were tight on money. Realizing that we had the upper hand, David started apologizing to appease us. "That's right, we should be the ones to pay first. But we don't have the money right now, so we can't. So, to make sure we can pay you back properly, why don't we live together again?" he suggested. "Yeah, that's right. Please tell us where you're moving to. We'll move in with you guys right away," Sarah chimed in. I sneered at them. "No, we can't live with a cat. Wasn't that the reason you kicked us out? We'll get rid of the cat right away," they offered, their selfishness evident. Feeling deeply sorry for the cat at their excessively selfish words, I refused. "No, we can't live with a cat. Wasn't that the reason you kicked us out?" As expected for David and his wife, the cat was nothing more than a tool to kick us out of the house. "As long as it benefits you, you're willing to put others' needs over your wants. Doesn't that make you a boomer?" I retorted, throwing their own words back at them. Sarah started to cry, but we had no obligation to be swayed by their tears. Besides, the place we moved into is an apartment for the elderly, so young people like you can't live there. "You're the ones who suggested it, remember?" I reminded them. After talking over them, I hung up. All I could hear from the phone was David and Sarah crying. In the end, we never heard an apology from them. Soon after that, the young couple left the house. Apparently, they had no savings and they both declared bankruptcy. Now, they live in public housing. When we returned to the house once for cleaning before handing it over, we were able to hear about David and Sarah from our friendly neighbor's wife. According to her, they had quite a hard time packing in a house without electricity, and as expected, they left the cat behind when they moved. Fortunately, I had asked the neighbor's wife to take care of the cat in advance, and she agreed. I offered to help her find a new owner for the cat, but she grew attached and decided to keep it. What was surprising was that David and his wife didn't get divorced. Those two were probably meant for each other. They might be eyeing my husband's inheritance, but we picked a pretty nice apartment. By the time we pass away, there will be hardly anything left. Finally, we were able to start living our life together as a couple without any interruption. The senior housing where we moved in has excellent services, with a gym, karaoke, and a pool. We even get served freshly made meals 3 times a day. And above all, there are many couples our age in the building. We have made a lot of new friends here, and we plan to enjoy our retirement years together.
Indeed, is it true that you've acquired a house? If so, I'd be interested in living with you. Unexpectedly, my mother-in-law started uttering such an absurd proposition over the phone. She must have caught wind of our recent home purchase from my husband. I could discern my sister-in-law's amused chuckles in the background. Does she believe her laughter can go unnoticed? Honestly, I have no desire to reside with my mother-in-law and the others. I thought my husband shared the same sentiment. However, the fact that they've been informed about our new house. Could it be that they're assuming we'll be living together? The idea that my beloved husband might be in cahoots with them fills me with a bit of apprehension. Yet, I have no intention of yielding to their wishes. Are they trying to manipulate me? If that's their game, I'll reverse the roles. Reflecting on all my past tribulations, I'd pledged revenge against them. I am Kate Thompson, 30 years old, working as an ordinary employee at a major financial corporation. I married my husband Joe 3 years ago, and though we don't have children yet, there's a valid reason for that, a decision we both took seriously. Joe and I are fully committed to our careers, toiling daily with the aim of advancing. Once our professional lives stabilize, we plan to build our own home and create a stable environment for raising children. We've agreed to revisit the topic of having kids once our careers settle down. This was a decision we made earnestly, sharing our genuine feelings and thoughts. We do aspire to have children eventually, and now as we prepare for that, I find myself recalling all my past struggles. Then one day, I successfully executed a well-planned project at work, and my promotion was officially confirmed. While my salary was already sufficient, the promotion brought even more comfort to our lives. On the other hand, Joe, although not promoted, received a substantial salary increase due to his years of service. With both our incomes on the rise, I felt it was time to turn our long-held dream into reality, so I broached the topic with Joe. Joe, I want to talk to you. Over the past year, both of us have had stable incomes. I think it might be time to consider getting our own home. What do you think? Oh, is it time already? From his excited voice, I could tell Joe was thrilled. Actually, I've been thinking about it too, but since I haven't been promoted yet, I felt a bit hesitant to bring it up. Don't worry about that. It's not like only one of us needs to earn money. I was thinking it might be okay to build our home in my name. Really? Well, you do earn more now. If you're okay with it, let's build our home in your name. All right, let's proceed with that. Let's go see some model houses on our next day off. Sounds great, let's go. We shouldn't miss this opportunity. I really feel grateful for choosing Joe at times like this, as we share the same values. The following week, we made an appointment to view model homes as planned. We looked at various types of houses, expanding our vision for our own home. On weekends, we began creating simple floor plans together, researching online. During a recent visit to a construction company, they suggested that instead of leaving everything to them, it's better if we create our own image for a more satisfying home. So Joe and I started building that image. However, neither of us has much knowledge of architecture or design, and even with research, it takes time to put it into practice. While taking breaks, we continued working, and then the doorbell rang. I thought it was a delivery, but when I opened the door, my mother-in-law was standing there unexpectedly. "Huh, Mother? What brings you here so suddenly like this?" My mother-in-law sometimes visits our place without notice. She glared at me and, without a word, took off her shoes and went into the house on her own. I near Joe, surprised by his mother's call, showed a startled reaction. "What's up? Did you have some business around here?" To Joe's question, his mother looked a bit perplexed. "Yes, I told Kate about it over the phone a little while ago, but it seems Joe didn't know." "I see. Maybe Kate forgot to tell me. Seems like it, Joe, even though he's still young, has a terrible memory." "That's not true, Mom. It's not forgetfulness. Kate is incredibly busy with work, and at the same time, she takes care of the household. Her mind is always full of things to do. You're such a kind boy, Joe. If your late father were here, he definitely wouldn't have forgiven that. I really respect Kate from the bottom of my heart. So, Mom, why did you come here today?" To Joe's question, his mother smiled contentedly. Then she slowly took out a travel brochure from her bag, spread a page with a post-it note on the table, and showed it. "Listen, Joe, I've always wanted to go to Niagara Falls. Won't you take me, please?" My mother-in-law began to say such things excitedly out of the blue. Caught off guard by the sudden request, both Joe and I were left staring at her, mouths agape. My mother-in-law, relentless, kept pressing Joe, who was clearly flustered. "Come on, Joe, you agree, right? Think of it as a way to show filial piety." "Wait a minute, Mom. I'm in trouble if you suddenly say you want to go on a trip. Though you can come too, actually. I was thinking of going with Claire, but if Joe wants to go, I'm delighted to turn it into a family trip. Claire is Joe's sister." "What are you talking about? Kate is here, and I can't get time off from work. But it's strange for me to pay for a trip for you and my sister, right?" "Not strange at all. Spending money for the family is a wonderful thing, don't you think so, Kate?" Suddenly turning to me, my mother-in-law sought my agreement. Though shaken, I firmly expressed my opinion to her. Using one's own money for family isn't bad, but I think imposing it on others is different. "What do you mean by that? Are you saying I'm trying to extort travel expenses from Joe?" "I didn't mean to say it in such a harsh way, but listening to you, it sounded like you just wanted us to pay for the trip, Katie. That's terrible. I had no such intention, but you're making me out to be the villain in front of Joe. I'm so shocked." "That's not. I didn't mean to call you a villain. I just answered honestly to what was asked." Okay, no need for excuses, Kate. Why are you so heartless? You must not like me, do you?" My mother-in-law, visibly upset, glared at me with icy cold eyes. It always turns out like this when she comes over. She always finds some reason to demand money and then squanders it with Claire, Joe's sister. Spending money for the family sounds nice, but what my mother-in-law does is practically extortion. The situation is entirely different when Joe gives the money out of kindness, no matter if they're family. I never really liked Joe's mother and sister. According to Joe, his mother and sister became selfish after his father passed away. Joe's father died when he was in high school, and since then, they have lived as a trio. With his strict father alive, he watched over the finances. But with his departure, there was no one to stop them, and they even freely spent the life insurance money. Also, since Claire works part-time and not as a full-time employee, her salary is low, and their life is always on the edge. So this is why she regularly visits our house, making excuses like life is tough, or I want to relax and travel somewhere, to extort money from Joe. Before marrying Joe, it seemed he was at the mercy of his mother and her demands. After his father's death, a sense of dependence for being cared for by his mother had bound Joe. However, since marrying me, Joe seems to be gradually realizing their true nature. Even when repeatedly asked for money, recently he's been trying hard to refuse. For Joe, that's quite a growth. Moreover, he has recently become able to speak back firmly to his mother. To my mother-in-law's spiteful words like, "You don't like me, do you?" Or "Why should I?" For such an uncharming daughter-in-law, Joe responded clearly, "Just because you're my mother doesn't mean you can speak badly of Kate. Didn't Kate just answer what you asked her?" "Mom, you're taking Kate's side." "What are you talking about?" "I think you're in the wrong here, Mom." "That's so unfair. Surely Kate must have poisoned your mind against me, poor thing. You were such a kind child before we got married." "I'm telling you, that's not it. I'm saying this because I think so." Joe's firm response surprised my mother-in-law, who was not used to being talked back to like that. With a frustrated look, by biting her lower lip, she said, "Fine," and left. "Kate, I'm sorry. I'd always make you feel uncomfortable." "No, it's okay. You stood up for us this time. Once we build our own home, we'll be further away. Let's not interact with Mom and them." "Then yeah, that would be a relief. If you're okay with it, Joe, I'm grateful." The area we're considering for our new home is quite far from our current apartment, improving the convenience for both of our workplaces. Our current apartment is about 5 train stations away from Joe's parental home, but the new house will be 3 times farther and require transfers. The route from the station is also complex, so if we don't give them the address, they won't be able to find our new home. It's a good chance to cleanly break off our relationship with my mother-in-law. Later, we submitted our imagined floor plan to the construction company, and the construction started 2 months later. After about half a year, our $500,000 dream home was completed. We managed to squeeze some time from our busy work schedules to pack a few days before the move. I received a call from my mother-in-law on my smartphone. "Busy packing." I turned on the speaker and answered the phone. "Hello," I said, and my mother-in-law started speaking in an unusually high-pitched voice. "Kate, when are you moving? You bought a house, right? I want to live with you." Suddenly, on the phone, my mother-in-law began to say such an outrageous thing. She must have heard about our new home purchase from Joe. I could hear Claire, my sister-in-law, chuckling in the background. "That's great. We can make Kate work for us every day, Mom. You came up with a good idea," said Claire. Do they think their words aren't reaching me? It's clear they plan to piggyback on our move. I imagine them planning to use us for an easy life, honestly. I have no intention of living with them. I thought Joe felt the same. But telling them about the new house, could it be that they're assuming we'll live together? The thought that my beloved Joe might be in league with them fills me with a bit of fear. But I have no intention of letting them have their way. They're probably trying to use me, right? If that's the case, I'll turn it around and use them. I told them the date of our move. Then my mother-in-law and Claire said, "We'll come to the apartment in the afternoon on that day. Take us with you in the car and arrange the movers for us too." They hung up after making their demands. But of course, I have no intention of complying. For now, I'll check the facts with Joe. As I was about to go and tell Joe this, he was already standing behind me. Joe, you were there. I came to say we should take a break. But was that Mom on the phone just now? Ah, yes. I was going to talk to you about it too. Why did you tell your mother about our new home? It's not like that. Actually, when Mom came over last time, she seems to have seen the floor plan of our new house. She kept pestering me about it every day, so Kate, I'm really sorry. I see. So you don't intend to live with your mother, right? Of course not. After hearing that phone call, I'm even thinking it's better to cut ties with her. Joe's expression was filled with more anger than ever. It was the first time I had seen him this angry. From what Joe told me, my mother-in-law had seen the layout of our new home and was convinced it was a spacious house. She had pretended to be interested and called Joe repeatedly, asking him about the number of rooms and details of the facilities. But it seems that Joe is on my side, which relieved me. Then there's no problem at all. This made me determined to get my revenge on my mother-in-law. I've had enough of her saying whatever she wants, but it's goodbye to that now. I'll make sure to settle this properly. And so the day of the move arrived. Joe and I had the movers transport our things in the morning and headed to our new home in our car. By the time we finished moving everything, it was already past 1 p.m. Checking our phones while taking a break, we saw dozens of missed calls from my mother-in-law. She called me too, Joe said, sounding weary. Then my mother-in-law called again. I answered the phone with the speaker still on. Hello? Hello, Kate. Where are you? I told you I'd be at the apartment in the afternoon, didn't I? Yes, you did say that. So what can I do for you? What do you mean you didn't arrange for the movers? I've been waiting at home, and not a single truck has shown up. So I had to go to your apartment myself. Is that so? Well, that's too bad. You know, I didn't arrange for any movers. What? That's not the agreement. Where is your new house? Huh, you really think I'll tell you? After saying that clearly, my mother-in-law uttered a dumbfounded huh. She probably thought that as long as Joe was there, she could always have her way. But Joe is different now. He's my precious ally, trying to cut off the bad ties with his family. Determined to release all my pent-up feelings, I spoke firmly. Just to let you know, neither Joe nor I have any intention of living with the two of you from now on. Please don't involve yourselves in our lives. What are you saying? Your opinion doesn't matter. It's up to Joe to decide. At least tell me where the new house is right now. Huh. How are you going to get here without even knowing the address? This house is in my name. I have the right to decide who lives here. If you two just barge in, it's trespassing, and I'll sue you right away. What? Trespassing? How rude to say that about your husband's family. At that point, Joe spoke up in a deathly cold voice. Family? My father, who was a family member, is already gone, isn't he? What are you saying, Joe? After hearing that last phone call, I'm utterly fed up with you two. Just having a blood relation with you is embarrassing. From now on, my family is only Dave and Kate. I no longer consider you two as my family. Wait, Joe, don't say such things. Don't bother us again about it. With that, Joe hung up without waiting for her reply. He swiftly set his phone to block her calls. Hey, Joe, are you really okay with this? Yeah, I finally realized that Mom was just using me to her advantage. I feel completely relieved now. Joe looked truly refreshed, sincerely believing what he said. That's how we, as a couple, managed to cut off the bad ties with my mother-in-law and sister. Afterwards, they had to change their lifestyle drastically, as Joe stopped supporting them completely. Without any contact with Joe, they lost their fallback option. Later on, my sister-in-law's part-time income wasn't enough, and my mother-in-law had to start working part-time as well. Being a housewife for so long, she wasn't used to the working environment and was clumsy, often being disliked at her workplace. Meanwhile, we live a peaceful life in our new home with no sudden visits from my mother-in-law anymore. We are truly stress-free. I'm endlessly grateful to Joe for believing in me and cutting ties with his toxic blood relatives. We might face various challenges in the future, but even then, I trust Joe, and we will support each other and walk through life together.
Meet Jody, a 29-year-old who's been working from home for 3 years. Before this setup, she held a consulting position at a major corporation, overseeing online operations. The decision to transition to remote work came unexpectedly when she found out she was pregnant. Opting for freelancing, she bid farewell to her corporate role, embracing the flexibility it offered. With her knack for marketing, she's been successfully managing various projects and directing online operations, bringing in a decent income. However, her husband, Huey, remains somewhat oblivious to the nature and value of her work, seeing it merely as a pastime. The shift to working remotely granted Jody the luxury of time, allowing her to experience a serene pregnancy and safely deliver their daughter, Caddy. Initially, Jody stayed with her parents for support during the first month after Caddy's birth. However, Huey's insistence on her return prompted her to shorten her stay to just a month. Since then, she's been navigating the delicate balance between work and childcare, managing adequately but not without its challenges. Unexpectedly, Olivia, her mother-in-law, proposed the idea of living together. Despite initial reservations about the potential complexities, Jody agreed on the condition of building a duplex to maintain some level of autonomy. The construction proceeded smoothly, and soon they moved into the new home, sharing common spaces. While initially pleased with the arrangement, Jody's contentment soon turned to frustration as Olivia began to impose various household tasks on her, often disrupting her work. Olivia's demands grew incessant, leaving Jody little room to focus on her professional responsibilities. Even when Jody voiced her concerns to Q, she found little support, with him dismissing her grievances and insisting she comply with his mother's requests. This lack of understanding and support from her husband only added to Jody's stress, pushing her mental and physical well-being to its limits. "I'm working hard and you're just playing. That's pathetic." With every complaint I voiced, Huey's attacks escalated, dismissing my efforts as nothing more than play. Even when I insisted that I was seriously working, he refused to believe me. Cody, my father-in-law, seemed to echo Huey and Olivia's sentiments, viewing working from home as little more than a hobby. Their lack of trust in my work left me questioning my own worth, fearing abandonment due to my perceived inadequacy. Then one day, when Hugh was off work and everyone was home, I had Caddy lying next to me as I worked. Huey barged into the room with a loud noise, demanding I come to my parents-in-law's room immediately. Ignoring Caddy's cries and leaving her behind, he must have known she was there. Was the loud noise really necessary? Doubting the sensibility of Hugh and my parents-in-law, who interrupted my work, I picked up the crying Caddy and went downstairs. Entering the living room, I found the parents-in-law and Huey chatting happily. Perhaps I had reached my limit of irritation. Anger started to bubble up inside me. "What is it?" I asked quietly, sitting down with Caddy in my arms. The parents-in-law and Huey continued whispering to each other, their secretive behavior unsettling. Patiently, I waited for them to start the conversation. Then Olivia coughed exaggeratedly and glared at me with surprising words. "You leave this house," she said abruptly. I was confused by Olivia's statement. Did she mean for me to temporarily return to my parents' house? "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to remain calm. Olivia snorted and crossed her arms arrogantly. Even as I looked to Hugh for an explanation, he only smiled continuously. Was he mad, or was it me who was losing it? Why, I wondered. I needed to understand the reason calmly, so I first turned to Olivia and asked her why she said that. Olivia's eyes lit up as if she was glad I asked, and with a smile similar to Huey's, she began to rant about how inadequate I was. "Every day you neglect housework, let Caddy cry incessantly, and just play with your computer and mobile phone. I don't know if you're relying on Huey's salary, but you never listen to advice, just like a parasite," Olivia continued, laughing heartily as if she found it amusing. "I apologize for the housework, but I'm doing the basics. I also take good care of Caddy. She's quite a quiet child." I countered Olivia's accusations as much as possible. I can't just let go of my computer and mobile phone. I'm working. Isn't that understandable? Then Huey glared at me. Are you cheating or what? He accused, and I stared back at him, bewildered by his baseless accusation. Yes, Jody is cheating, Olivia joined Huey, pointing at me with a look of disgust. I was appalled at their audacity. I'm not cheating. I can show you my mobile phone right now, I said, taking out my phone to prove my innocence. But Huey just scoffed at it. Anyone can deceive with that. Can't trust you, he said dismissively. Realizing arguing was pointless, I put away my phone for now. We don't need someone like you. Parasites should move out immediately, Olivia continued to berate me. Move out quickly, she continued. I started to feel like maybe leaving with my daughter was the only option. However, there was one reason I couldn't decide to leave just yet: the duplex house. I was the one who paid for it, went to the construction company repeatedly, and was particular about the interior and exterior. Therefore, I couldn't just easily say, yes, sure, and leave this place. Moreover, the mortgage is still in my name, and I doubt Huey's salary alone could cover our living expenses. If I leave, my income goes too. Are you sure he can manage? I gave them one last chance to reconsider, but Huey scoffed. What income of yours? Don't make me laugh. We've been living off my salary alone until now. His ignorance made me feel almost sorry for him. I sighed deeply and turned to Olivia. Hugh is quite a handful, even more than a 6-month-old daughter. Will you be taking care of him? Huey is high maintenance. He needs his towel, underwear, and pajamas ready after his bath, his shoes polished daily, his shirts ironed, suits deodorized, and wrinkle-free. If his morning coffee strength is slightly off, he loses his temper like a madman. I doubted Olivia could handle such a needy Huey. I asked, offering Olivia a chance. I can do a better job than you. Who's just been playing around, she scoffed. Besides, if you leave, Huey already has someone else in mind. Olivia, looking pleased, said something that she shouldn't have to hear. What do you mean? I didn't miss a beat and turned my gaze to Hugh and Olivia. Olivia showed a look of regret and hastily averted her eyes. Hugh glared at Olivia. Why did you say that? He whispered in a low voice. Explain what's going on. From their reactions, I gathered that Huey might have another woman. I glared intensely at Huey, prompting him to speak uncomfortably. Apparently, according to Huey, for several months, he's been seeing a woman named Carol, a young lady in her early 20s who fell for Huey at first sight during a business encounter. After her advances, they started dating. Carol is beautiful, graceful, and has a wonderful personality, Hugh says with a laugh. I couldn't believe it considering Huey's looks. I couldn't fathom why such a young woman would be interested in him. Half believing, I asked Hugh for proof, thinking if it's true, I'd secure compensation. Hugh showed me his WhatsApp history with Carol, and as expected, the messages were mostly from Huey, suggesting dates and compliments. However, Carol seemed disinterested in anything beyond work, politely declining personal interactions. Moreover, she typically responded formally, with no stamps or anything, just simple replies. Stunned by Huey's smug face, I was at a loss for words. I took screenshots of the conversation, transferred them to my phone without permission, and saved them. You never know when they might serve as evidence. Then I'll leave. With all that had transpired, my affection for Huey had cooled off entirely, and I didn't care what happened to them anymore. I'll take Caddy with me, I declared as Huey and the parents-in-law seemed pleased with my decision to leave. Huey's face turned serious, and his raised hands fell. What are you talking about? You can't raise Caddy without any income. That's right, leave Caddy here. Don't be silly, Hugh, and the parents-in-law didn't understand why I needed to take her with me. As far as I'm concerned, I don't understand why I should leave my daughter in such a place. I've told you I have an income, and why would I leave her with people who can't even take proper care of her? When Caddy grows up, she'll work hard, and I'll relax. Hugh interrupted with his nonsensical talk as I was explaining why I wouldn't leave Caddy. My anger was building. He kept spouting selfish things. Not realizing he's digging his own grave, He even plans to use our daughter as a tool. Very well then. Let's decide the custody through court. Please prepare a lawyer. Until then, I'll take care of her. But I knew that arguing here would only complicate things further with Huey and the parents-in-law, with unwavering confidence that I wouldn't lose. Once they agreed to legal proceedings, I wasted no time in preparing to leave immediately. Over the next few days, I never left my daughter's side, making all the necessary arrangements. I visited the construction company that had helped build the house and explained everything. I asked if they knew any good real estate agents to sell the house. Nick, the president of the construction company, became my ally, assuring me they'd handle everything. They quickly arranged for the sale, and to my surprise, due to the house's recent construction, pristine condition, and excellent location, it sold for far more than I expected. Simultaneously, they found an apartment for my daughter and me, a great place at the lowest price due to my budget considerations. I expressed my gratitude and began preparing to move immediately. "Oh, have you already found a place?" While packing my dishes in the living room, Olivia asked with a laugh. "Yes." I responded briefly, feeling no need to elaborate. "It'll be lonely without you," she said with a big laugh as she walked away. As unpleasant as she was, I looked around. The sofa and dining table I had bought were too large for the apartment, so I decided to sell them. Next was the refrigerator, which I also bought. It was slightly large, but I decided to take it with me and marked it with a sticker. I put stickers on all the furniture and appliances I had bought and wanted to take, and took photos of the items I didn't need with my mobile phone. On moving day, I purposely chose a day when the parents-in-law and Huey were away. Huey was at work, and the parents-in-law were called away to a community gathering. With the divorce papers Huey had given me in hand, I worked with the movers to transport my belongings. I had the construction company arrange for a waste removal service to pick up the unwanted furniture and other items. I steadily progressed with the move, and everything was finished within 2 hours. A few hours later, I left the house with Caddy. As I arranged things in the apartment, the phone rang. It was Olivia. It was already 5 in the evening. I had left before noon, so she must have just realized. I answered the call. "Jody, what's this about the house being empty?" Over the phone, Olivia seemed quite flustered, yelling loudly. "Ah, those things were mine. I disposed of the ones I didn't need. What are you talking about?" I replied calmly. "Well, I bought them. I have receipts and other proofs of purchase, so there's no point in complaining," I said with a laugh, leaving Olivia seemingly at a loss for words, raised in nonsensical uproar. "Oh, and I sold the house, so please vacate within a month," I added cheerfully. Olivia sounded even more astonished. "Why would you do that? Since I built the house, it's in my name and I've been paying the mortgage, so I decided to do as I pleased. So that's that," I stated firmly, and Olivia was still trying to say something, but I hung up the phone. After that, I received numerous calls from the parents-in-law and Huey, but I ignored them all. I needed to arrange the apartment quickly for Caddy's sake and had no time for distractions. I also consulted with a lawyer, and we agreed all future communications would go through them. Months later, after repeated negotiations, I easily won custody of Caddy. The reasons were simple. I had ample financial resources. I had been the one caring for Caddy all along, and working from home allowed me to spend more time with her. Huey, who had assumed he would naturally win custody, was shocked and bitterly spat. "I don't need such a girl anyway," before storming off. Relieved that I could finally live peacefully with my daughter, I felt a sense of calm settle over me. After I left, the parents-in-law and Huey hadn't left yet. What should I do? I received a call from the president of the construction company. I simply replied, "Please evict them," and the president, knowing the situation and seemingly amused, laughed heartily and said, "Leave it to me," before hanging up. I don't know exactly how the formidable-looking president persuaded Hugh and the parents-in-law to leave, but I can't imagine. A few days later, I received a report that they've moved out, and I was impressed by the efficiency. Even that brought relief to my heart. But several months after the divorce, Hugh contacted me. By then, the divorce was final, and the parents-in-law had somewhat given up, so I hadn't blocked his number. But I immediately regretted not changing my mobile phone number or maintaining the block. Ah, long time. I was just thinking maybe you were starting to miss me by now, he said. What is he talking about? I felt more liberated than ever after the divorce, not having to care for him. I listened as Huey continued speaking. He was apparently dumped by Carol and had thought I was his only option. The way he was dumped was laughable. He went to Carol right after our divorce, saying we can be together right away. When he told her, "You don't flatter yourself," she responded very coldly, misinterpreting her professional demeanor at the workplace. Hugh visited her at home, resulting in a restraining order from the police. Hugh claimed, "Carol betrayed me. I dumped that woman." But frankly, I had no interest in his story. I hung up the phone while he was still talking and immediately blocked him. I blocked all messages and later changed my phone number, starting anew. I heard from mutual friends that after the incident with Carol, Huey had disputes with clients and was negatively affected at work. Perhaps feeling too uncomfortable, he resigned. Unable to secure another job, he seemed to be struggling financially, constantly asking various people for loans. The parents-in-law are probably taking care of him, but I imagine his modest income is hardly sufficient for a stable life. As for me, I'm living a fulfilling life with Caddy, dedicating my presence solely to her, which brings me the utmost happiness.